what's up y'all? Welcome back. Today I want to teach you a really cool song from Junior Kimbrough, also from the Black Keys. The Black Keys covered this Junior Kimbrough song. It's called Everywhere I Go. And this is a really fun one to play. It's great to work on your monotonic thumb. You get some minor pentatonic riffs at the same time. Keep that monotonic thumb going. The Black Keys song and the Junior Kimbrough song are mostly exactly the same. Let's start with the main riff, and then we'll do all the extra stuff, and then towards the end we'll talk about the differences between the Black Keys version and this original Junior Kimbrough version. Let's jump right in. As usual for the lesson part, I'm going to switch over to my acoustic guitar so that you guys can more easily follow along without worrying about the amp settings and all that stuff. We'll go over some of that stuff towards the end of the video, but let's switch guitars real quick. The main riff has three parts. First we have a monotonic thumb, and that's just going to keep going the whole time on the A string. And then the riff sounds like this. Okay, and we add those two together and it sounds like this. Some of the little extras that I'm adding in there is little hammer-ons, little pull-offs, pull-off there. Hammer-on, little hammer-on there as well. Now just kind of look at the tabs for those and see if you can follow along. Those are extras, remember, they're not the most important thing. That's the main riff. He plays this riff and kind of answers it with a different type of phrase like this. Okay, that riff, we basically are coming up to the top part of the minor pentatonic and giving it a bend going down that scale. And we're doing that with the thumb. Now if you're trying to play this on the acoustic, remember that bend, it's going to be pretty hard to do, so you can do a slide like this. Okay? And that's kind of the answer phrase. So practice putting those together like that's one little answer phrase he does. Sometimes he'll answer it also with this kind of slidey phrase where it goes like, in context it sounds like this. And those are like the little call and response phrases he does before he starts singing. Now when he starts singing, he additionally does another call and response type thing where he's playing the melody that he's singing. So he sings the line, everywhere I go, and then follows that with the line. And then he sings the next line. You've got this thing's going on. Alternate between the singing part and then the main riff, like this. And so on. Now one thing that's really cool about hill country blues is that a lot of times the songs are made up of repeating phrases over and over again. So if you can get a hold of like 2 or 4 measures, sometimes that's the whole song. And in this case, it's most of the song, but there's some extra stuff that we still need to talk about, the solo stuff. A lot of times Junior, when he's soloing, he keeps that thumb going, but he'll come up instead of playing in normal position like box 1, he'll play up in box 2, and that's what he's doing in this case. So he'll, after he plays the phrase, he's coming up to box 2. The way that you guys should approach this is really just try to improvise something that sounds similar, because he's going to play it slightly different every time. Some of the key phrases that he always does in a lot of songs is that kind of phrase here. That's the phrase. Okay. Now in the Black Keys version, they're going to extend that solo up a little bit higher and also they're copying Junior's style because Junior does this in a lot of other songs. So then they'll come up into box 4, which is this shape here. Okay, and mainly just kind of plays around with those shapes. Okay, at the very end of the solo, in the Black Keys version at least, they're gonna come up and play this. It's just the A note, kind of back up to the first position in the 19th fret. And then back into all the other phrases. All right, really, these are all the parts. And remember, there's not an exact version of this song. Every time Junior plays a song, he's gonna play it a little bit differently. And same thing with the Black Keys, they're gonna vary it slightly each time. Just make sure that you can play each piece and play from each piece to the next piece, meaning play the main riff, and then the singing part. And then just practice going back and forth between those. You can also practice adding in that first kind of answer riff. Okay, those are all the main parts. That's how you should practice it. Now let's talk about some of the differences that you're going to hear between the Junior version and the Black Keys version. Okay, the first main difference is the key of the song. The original Junior version and the versions that you hear Junior playing live all the time, he's playing it in G minor. So he still has an open string here. I think what he's done is he's tuned down to D standard. Even though he plays an open G all the time, from this one I listened to it a bunch of times and I just think that he's actually in a relative standard tuning, which is D standard. Those are the options you have. You can tune down to play with Junior's version, or you can try it in open G. But another solution that I think is better is to practice this thumb over the neck method, where instead of hitting the open A string, you're gonna hit the G note with your thumb on the low E string. And everything would be played exactly the same because we're not using any open strings. Okay. The only difference is when you come up and you start to do the solo, you can't keep playing the bass note and come up in box 2, box 4, box 5, etc. Because you can't reach, just physically you wouldn't be able to. That's why he definitely has an open string tuned to G. It could be an open G. I couldn't find any live versions of him actually playing this song to analyze it, but in the recorded versions, to my ear, I really think he's playing in standard tuning. The second main difference is the speed. The Black Keys version is significantly slower at about 133 beats per minute. So this is what the one sounds like at 133. This is Black Keys version. The drums don't change much. They just kind of keep this pulse that's going out throughout the entire song, and they don't really change much at all. As opposed to the Junior version that he's playing live and some of his juke joints, he is playing way faster at 161 beats per minute, and that's going to sound like this. So that's all. So you can hear that's a lot different. One of the other differences is that the Black Keys are going to add a little bit more of this kind of fuzz sound. Okay, it sounds like this. The junior version is much more clean. And that's how he played all the time. He was playing mostly into a clean amp, and that's how you're going to get that tone. One of the other things I want to talk about is some of the little bitty extra things that are going to make it a lot more fun to play. On the riff, you can always kind of harmonize it with strings around it. What I mean by that is, see, what I'm doing is instead of just playing more stuff like this. So I'm just playing kind of, if you hold your finger down on the 5th fret here, or in the 5th position across, then you can play adjacent strings. So I'm always playing kind of a pair of 2 strings. Now I'm not really consciously picking when I do the pairs. Basically, when you want kind of a little bit of variation, strike more strings. You don't have to use 2 fingers either. You can use 1 finger. That's a little bit harder for me, and I think there's a lot of benefits from using multiple fingers, but you can definitely get away with just using 1 finger on this one. Now lastly, let's take a quick look at what I'm using to get my tone here. Now my tone is not exactly the same as either the Black Keys or the Junior Kimbrough version. I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a mix, kind of leaning a little bit more towards the Black Keys version. But in case you guys wanted to just see what I'm playing on, so you can get a similar tone, or at least to kind of know what I'm doing, I just want to show you my settings here. So first I'm going through my Audient ASP800 interface here, which gives me a bunch of extra inputs, and I'm really just using the first input here. And I've also got this cool thing with the HMX and iron turned all the way up, which gives it a little bit of extra growl and just a little bit of extra thickness. And then coming out of my Apollo Twin, which actually runs over here to a reamp box, and that's what's going through my pedals. So let's take a look at my pedals here. So the pedals that are actually being used is I'm using this Pinnacle from Wampler, and I'm really just using it as kind of like a little bit of boost and to add some top end here with this tone knob on the very top here. It's a tone knob. I've just cranked it just a tiny bit. Everything else is pretty low. And then I'm not going through any of this other stuff here until I get to this Octafuzz. This is from Full Tone. This is really cool, and I've actually got it on the fuzz setting, not the Octafuzz setting. I've got it on just the regular fuzz. And this is a really cool pedal. After that, it's not going through any of these other pedals. It's going out of that into my Mesa Boogie, just a 30 watt amp here, and I'm running it on the first clean channel here. After this, it's running back into the computer from the silent recording section that's actually included in this cool amp that I have. I'm just using it to get a little bit of the tube tone that's going through here. And to use my pedals a little bit, yeah. So those are the settings that I'm using. You don't have to do any of these settings. You don't have to do anything to get the Junior Kimbrough tone. Really just connect any guitar into a clean sounding amp, and that's basically it. To get more of the Black Keys tone, usually they're gonna add a little bit of fuzz. For both of their tones, you can also add just a tiny bit of spring reverb, which actually I forgot to show you, but inside the computer I'm adding a little bit of spring reverb as well. And that's how I'm getting the tone. Remember, it's not exactly how they're doing it, but I just wanted to share it with you in case you guys wanted to use a tone that was similar to mine, or at least wanted to know what I was using. So anyways, that's it for this lesson, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I had a lot of fun showing you this one. As always, check out more videos over here, and I'll see you guys there.